Hey guys, Christian from Storyboard Films back here again today with another video. And actually, we're starting a new series today, but before we get into that, be sure to check out all links in the description down below for our Facebook and Twitter so you can stay updated with all of our future uploads. As well as also, while you're at it, be sure to hit like and subscribe and also hit that bell notification so you can stay updated on all of our future uploads, like I said. And also encourage us to keep doing future uploads because we love to do this and we love your guys' support. So anyways, like I said, we're starting a new series today, and this is actually going to be a series for the extreme budget filmmaker. And what I mean by that is someone that has virtually no money to work on films. Basically, all they have is equipment and a few friends rounded up to do film. So today we're actually going to be talking about storyboards. I'm going to give some cheap solutions for storyboards or alternatives, and then some quick and easy tips for creating storyboards. So let's get into it. So to start off this video, I really have to talk about what a storyboard is because the majority of beginning filmmakers that are working on a very low budget are not going to necessarily know what a storyboard is. They might know what a script is, but storyboards are a little bit different. So a storyboard, basically think of it as an instruction manual for your film with pictures, like that little Lego booklet that you get with any Lego set. It goes picture by picture describing how to put the pieces together in order to form the end project. A storyboard is essentially the same thing, but you're the one mapping it out. You're deciding everything beforehand. Usually it goes hand in hand with the script. You have usually the script with you while you're working on the storyboard, so you can visualize how the film is going to look and what angles you're going to be used for different shots, as well as writing little details within the frame as well to show what is going to be happening in there. So like right below it or next to it, usually you want to write things like what kind of audio there's going to be, like any music or dialogue if there's going to be any, and then you write details about the framing itself because the picture might not always be the best way to describe it. So you can write things like if it's going to be a medium shot, if it's going to be a front angle, if it's going to be a profile shot, if you're going to use a low or a high angle or just a neutral shot. So there's all sorts of details that you can write in your storyboards to help you map out even further exactly what you want out of the frame. So usually it'll go in a step-by-step process, and depending on how much detail you put into the storyboard will make it that much easier when you get into filming and make your life a lot quicker when you're actually going through the filmmaking process. And it also helps too when you're going to edit. You can refer back to it to know which shots are supposed to go where in sequence, and it just makes your life that much easier overall. So while storyboards aren't exactly necessary to the filmmaking process, once again, it's just something that will make your life a whole lot easier and actually make the process go that much quicker and with less mistakes. You tend not to forget about what you're supposed to do as much when you have that reference. If all you have is a script, then you're going to be struggling a little bit more. You won't have as much to go off of. You'll kind of have to try to remember what you had visualized or even visualize something on the spot. And that kind of creative pressure isn't always the best for filmmakers, and it can make a film crumble in a matter of minutes. Looking online, there are plenty of different pre-made storyboard notebooks that have your storyboard templates on there, but they cost upward of 15 to 25 bucks, and while that may not seem too expensive, they only carry about 50 pages with, I think, 2 to 3 frames a page on average. So realistically, you're not getting that much out of it, and if you plan on making films for some time, or you plan on having longer projects, this isn't going to be exactly the best thing for you. So I've come up with some cheap solutions, scouring the internet and just coming up with stuff on my own. So here's my top 3 solutions to get cheap storyboards. First off, we have the Graph Composition Notebook. I picked this up for 89 cents at my local Walmart, which is a huge bargain compared to that $15. The only downside of the Graph Composition book is all you get are lines. You have to build the frames yourself. But when it comes down to it, that little bit of extra labor is nothing compared to the amounts of money you would have to spend to get a pre-made storyboard notebook, which would then transition into even more hard work to do some paid jobs to get the money to pay for all those storyboard notebooks. So, of course, looking in here, you'll see that I drew my frames. I actually draw them to the aspect ratio of my videos, pretty much all of which are shot in 16:9 and then in post-production edited to a 2.35:1 aspect ratio to get that cinematic look, also known as an anamorphic crop. So you can account for that in here as well. You can count the ratio and draw that in here as well. So for me, I just did the 16:9 aspect ratio, 16 across, 9 vertical. So I just drew out my frames like that, and actually I can fit 8 frames to a page when doing that, as well as being able to leave 2 lines between each frames vertically, so that I can add in all of my details, like the shot angles, the audio, all the actions going on in the frame. All those details I can fit within those 2 lines between each frame. So not only am I getting 8 frames per page as opposed to about 2 or 3, I'm still getting to draw all the details I need and write in all the details I need. So it's a very huge thing to have there. And I still have room to like number my frames and all that, so I know which order they're going in. And on top of that, I also leave a line in between them horizontally so I can add in my transitions between shots, like any cuts or fades or dissolves or wipes. So I can have all of those transitions labeled in here, so that when I go into editing, I know exactly where to put them based on the shot. And the reason I said graph composition specifically instead of just a composition notebook obviously is because of the fact that there's a grid, which makes your life so much easier when you're actually going to map out the frames, like I said, into that 16:9 aspect ratio. When you just have a regular composition book, all you get is straight lines, and that's only really good for writing down notes, which if you want to get a separate composition notebook to go along with this to take more detailed notes based on each frame, you can do that. You can essentially make a shot list out of a regular composition notebook, just numbering your frames and then putting that corresponding number on your composition notebook and writing notes based on the frame so you can get more details out of it if you really want to. Aside from graph composition notebooks, there's also the camera storyboard. So if you have a DSLR like I do, or just any camera that shoots photos, you're going to be set. Or even if you just have a phone with a camera, that's all you really need, a camera and a couple of people to fill in for your actors. Basically, all you need to do is go to the location that you want to shoot, take pictures of the angles that you want to use with the people in the place that you want your actors. So that way you get the image beforehand and you can tell exactly the distances you want everything to be at and which angles and where everything needs to go. So actually you're getting more thorough detail out of this and costing even less because all you need is that one camera and some storage. So that's really easy. And the plus side of this too with being digital is you can upload it to a computer or any sort of online file and then share with everyone in your crew so they all have immediate access to it. So if you're all in the field, you don't all have to huddle around a little notebook. You all can look at your own mobile devices and boom, you have everything right there. And if you put it into a document of some sort, you can have the pictures, and then right below those, you can include all of your details needed. So really, you're actually getting way more out of a camera storyboard than you would a notebook. But it's understandable, sometimes the notebook has more practicality because you can't always just go to the location. Sometimes you can only get that location for a day. So to go there and take pictures, that would take up a day as well as your actual shoot day. So that would kind of be a little bit of a struggle. So I can understand why some people would have to go to notebook. It works out for some cases. And sometimes you might not have a location ready. Sometimes you might just want to get the angles made up beforehand before you go to a location so you know what your location kind of needs to look like in terms of how you want to shoot and what you all want and what all you want in the shot. So there are some pros and cons to both sides. And the third option is actually something I mentioned earlier, a shot list, which essentially just details your shots, what they're going to be, and usually the date and time of when you plan to shoot them. It's kind of like a schedule more or less, but if utilized correctly, it can actually replace a storyboard entirely. Sometimes just adding the details of the angles that you want and the shots that you want can be good enough to actually use for a storyboard. Because if you have an artistic enough mind, or if you at least have enough memory in your brain to remember how you want things to look and all the angles you need in there, just having a shot list to maybe brush you up on those details and kind of remind you completely of the exact scene that you wanted, sometimes that can work out. It's not for everyone because it's going to give you the least amount of detail that you actually need, but sometimes it can work out. So that is definitely an option to consider, and it's totally free. All you have to do is just type it up, either on an online document or like a Word document, and then print it off and give it out to everyone. Just any way works. You're still getting the information out there. Once again, storyboards aren't completely necessary, but they will make your life that much easier, and they are highly recommended. Those were my cheap solutions for storyboards, my cheap alternatives for like the storyboard notebooks that you see out there that are a little bit higher end. So now we're going to get into some storyboard tips. So all of the tips that I'm going to give you guys here actually are going to be either to make your storyboard process go faster or to make your life easier when utilizing the storyboard. So the first tip I'm going to give you is draw stick figures. If you're actually going to hand draw your storyboards, like with a graph composition notebook, your best bet is going to be to draw stick figures, because if you worry about drawing out all these detailed people, then it's going to be seriously time consuming and actually completely unnecessary. Stick figures still get the point across and show a position your actors need to be in within the frame. And of course, just varying the different sizes of the stick figures will show that depth and dimension that you really need. So there's no point to go into serious detail as long as you show certain facial features to show which direction the actor's facing, and then using things like arrows to show movement. Your life will be completely fine. You don't need to go into serious detail, and stick figures will make your life go so much quicker. My number 2 tip is also related to characters. It's going to be drawing your stick figures in color. So I would initially start out going through the whole thing drawing in pencil. But once you're done with that, go through with like some colored gel pens or markers or crayons or whatever you have that's colored, and color in your different characters. You don't necessarily have to color them in completely, just draw like the outline in color. So that way you can tell which character is which and then signify that on the script. So like if your characters have dialogue in the script, put a mark next to their name with that color so you can tell in your storyboard which character is going to be which within there. Because once again, if you're using stick figures, you're not going to have that much detail. It might not be as easy to identify the different characters. But if you use color, it's going to be really simple. Or if you want, you can just put a color key on the front of your script. There are all sorts of different ways to do it. Just find some ways to mark your characters differently. Now, my third tip for storyboards is actually shading in different perspectives of the third dimension. Because obviously drawing 3-dimensional objects is going to be a little bit difficult, and sometimes you can't tell which plane of the third dimension is being shown on the picture. So like the example that I'm showing on screen here, I've shaded the top plane of my third dimension to show which plane that is. So I know that the other two are my X and Y planes, while that top one is my Z plane. So anything that is shaded is going to be my Z plane. And you don't have to shade it in completely, just a rough shade to show that that is a different dimension than the other two will make life a bit easier for you so that it doesn't mess with your brain as much, and you can more easily comprehend what's going on in the image, as well as other people can also comprehend that better as well. If you want to, you can shade in one side and then maybe like just put a line through another just to kind of show that it's a different angle. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Just find some way to mark that third dimension if you're going to be drawing that in, which you should be anyways, because depth is such a huge part of film. It conveys the whole illusion of what you're trying to show. So definitely marking that on your storyboard will make life a lot easier for everyone, because once again, it's not very easy to draw and have it make sense to people's brains. And my fourth tip, like I mentioned earlier, something that I do very regularly is drawing my frames to my aspect ratio, because that way you can tell exactly what will fit in the frame and what won't. Maybe not exactly, but it will give you more of a clue of what will actually fit within the frame. Because once again, I draw mine in a 16:9 aspect ratio box, but then if I decide that I want to have in the anamorphic crop, which is the 2.35:1, then I can draw that in later, calculating it mathematically and figuring out where the bars need to be within my frame so that I can actually account for that while I'm filming, just to make my life that much easier. And my tip number 5 for storyboards, this is actually going to make your life a lot quicker as well, is if you have a frame that is similar to or the same as a previous frame, writing in something like same as number whatever will help out a lot. Like in this example that I'm showing up here, I wrote same as number 34, signifying that it's going to be the exact same as frame number 34 earlier in that storyboard, as a way to give me a quick reference and remind me like, okay, I've already shot this frame. If I go back to this one, I'll know exactly what it is. It just makes your life a lot quicker when you're going through actually making the storyboard frame. In fact, I did that roughly 12 times in my Thesaurus storyboard. And actually, when I did that, if there was like any slight differences between the frames, I would include that in there just within the frame. So I didn't have to draw it out again. I would just go into the actual frame itself and write same as number blah 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 blah. So that will also save you a lot of time. Definitely something to consider. Tip number 6 is draw in pencil, because if you make a mistake while storyboarding, it's going to be miserable unless you have whiteout, and even then, it's just gonna suck. Who likes writing over whiteout? So I would recommend just writing or drawing over in pencil first and writing all your details in pencil, and then once you get it finished, go back through in your color to mark your characters and shade in areas, which once again I would do with pencils personally. So those are all of my tips and cheap solutions for storyboards, as well as what storyboards actually are. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're a budget filmmaker as well, be sure to comment down below. I'd love to hear you guys' feedback. So anyways, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you all next Thursday when I post the next video. Thank you all for watching. Peace out.